All right, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I see we got a wide audience from everywhere. Welcome to another webinar. Today we're going to talk about maximizing the value from your CRM, and in particular, the power of the connected CRM. Last time we spoke was on the we call it the sales management aspect, and fantastic that you all joined, by the way. And this time we're not going to talk about the sales management, we're not going to talk about numbers, we're not going to talk around pipelines, but we're purely going to talk about how do we get maximum value out of our customer relationship management system. All right, so before we proceed, just would like to know if you can hear me okay. So if you can hear me okay, just fill out the poll here. If there's any issues, I'd like to know that. But if you can hear me okay, just let me know. Yep, the votes are coming in. Obviously, I'm coming throughout the whole world. So fantastic. Now, before we proceed, let's just say Happy New Year, everyone. This is not only a new year, it's a new decade. There is no reason not to make this year the biggest winner of a year that we've seen in a while, because it's a leap year. You get an extra day. So fantastic, best wishes. I see some poll questions coming in. Oh my God, yes, indeed, Happy New Year. And yes, I see a question around the fires in Australia. Thank you for asking. Thank heavens, we are all right here, but it has been dreadful with the fires this year in Australia. So thank you for asking. It's been very, very bad summer, and bless our firefighters and everyone that's helping out. So far, nobody I know directly has been impacted, but I'm sure a lot of people have. So again, thank you, I really appreciate it. And let's hope that things settled. It has cooled down a little bit. It's 15 degrees colder today than it was 3 days ago, and it's 30 degrees centigrade over here right now, which is around, what would be mid 80s, mid to high 80s in Fahrenheit. All right. So for those of you that haven't actually done a webinar with me yet, this is Zoho Showtime. And if you want to ask a question, and I've seen, obviously, some of you have done this already, there are questions over here in the question section, so you can ask me any questions. Please do so. We love the interaction, and to get the maximum value out of that. You can also take notes. So there is a notes field here. It opens up within the webinar application, so you don't have to switch around two different apps. So if you have a single screen setup or you're working on your laptop, you can take notes. At the end of the session, don't just close the browser, but it will ask you to send the notes to your email address, and you'll receive them as a text file directly in your email. Finally, on the other side of the screen, on the right side, you see the slides that the presenter is currently at, and you can also browse back. So if you want to see something else again, feel free to browse through the slides. You can always catch up to where we are. And as with every other webinar, at the end of this session, you will receive a link to the recording. If you've missed previous sessions, please go to our website, and I'll put the link up later as well at the end. You can find all the previous sessions under the webinar section in publications. All right, so let's get started. Today we're going to talk about CRM as a powerhouse in your organization to get everything connected from your customer. And first and foremost, CRM is actually not an application, it is a strategy. It's customer relationship management is a strategy. There's an app for that. Of course, for everything there's an app. But the CRM strategy has to be pervasive throughout your company. And therefore your CRM application needs to support that. And today we're going to talk about how that actually works. Now, a little bit of background about me. I've been in business applications for 25 plus years, more years than I care to admit. I've worked with top tier ERP and CRM systems, Bounce, Siebel, Dynamics. Currently, I am an authorized Zoho partner, exclusively work with the Zoho solutions. What I mentioned today is applicable to any other type of CRM as well. And I've worked for both very small as well as very large vendors and system integrators. So hopefully today, what you get from my experience over the 25 years, it is useful for you and you can accelerate your CRM adoption in your company. And again, feel free to ask questions. So In the last webinar, and again, if you haven't seen it yet, I welcome you to see it. It's on demand available in my website. We talked about how a CRM makes all kinds of promises. And if you're in a CRM implementation at the moment, you notice if you've done an implementation, you can actually put it to the test. It's supposed to give you a 360-degree view of your customers. It gives you the best practice sales process. You should know everything from anywhere, and you enter the data once, use it many times. Now, whereas last time we talked around the sales management aspect of this, here it's actually applicable to how CRM is pervasive to your organization. Is this promise true? And I have to say, unfortunately, in 60 to 70% of the implementations after it is complete, it actually isn't true. And that's nothing to do with the application itself, but a lot with how it is actually pervasive through the organization. And if the CRM application doesn't follow the CRM strategy, that's exactly where you can hit these disappointments. Also, in the last webinar, we talked around that disconnected reality, the no leading process. It's not, you enter the data in CRM, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I'll give you an example. You create a discount field in the CRM and it's not picked up on your sales order, right? Customer will be upset. So those things are a little bit disappointments when the CRM data that you care to very careful for is not pervasive in your organization. As a result, you have that Rolodex system. That is the business card system. All your customer data is there, and you have an order entry system, but it actually doesn't help your organization getting further. So today in this webinar, I'd like to look at how can we make this successful? How can we make the CRM worth the implementation investment? And what you'll find is actually it's not usually a very big thing that needs to be done. They're very small tricks and tips that we can put in place, and obviously select the right CRM that is able to display that information going forward. All right, so why a connected CRM? So why would I connect my CRM? It's for sales, right? So why would I connect it, for instance, to my production? Well, it's like a tailor-made suit. If you don't send your metrics, your dimensions of the sizes across to the tailor, you get a jacket that's too boxy or the pants that are too short. And the similar thing is with your customer. They expect that every aspect of where they do business with you, they know what's going on. Now, you can raise your hand if you have any experiences, but have you ever tried calling your telco for a support issue? You know exactly what I mean then, right? Whether it's for billing or something else, as soon as you're transferred to the next department, nobody seems to know why you're calling. You have to repeat yourself over and over again. That's your customer expectations. Like, well, listen, you know me as an entity of the business. You know who I am. You know what I want. You know my situation. The customer doesn't necessarily care that they're talking to someone in sales or someone in the warehouse following up on their delivery. They expect that you have the information ready because they do business with you as a company. The second thing is your employees expect it. And if you work in a large organization, you know what I mean, right? If you're how often does it happen? Like, oh my, why did they do that to this customer? Didn't they know that whatever situation there is? Your employees expect it because teamwork can only happen when you actually are on the same page. And we have a shared goal, which is customer success in every business. So if we're not on the same page regarding that customer, you get friction within the organization. So a lot of the friction that is caused within the organization pertaining customers is actually a lack of shared information. We don't really know what's going on. And then finally, you expect it yourself, whether you're a business leader, a business owner, a sales manager, or anyone that is accountable somewhere for customer success, which is actually us all. You expect that we work towards that common goal and have the same level of information. So a connected CRM is actually nothing less but an expectation. It's not something that is going like, wow, this is magic and no one else has it. It feels like magic. Not enough of us have it, but it is actually an expectation that we all have that our system does. All right, so what is a connected CRM what does it do? Well, think about it this way, right? And we can step into the shoes of our own customers or a customer anywhere. We are customers, so empathize with ourselves actually. Who do we talk to in various departments, right? We talk to sales, we talk to procurement, we talk to delivery, we talk to the project management. There's a lot of entry points that our customers talk into in our business. And there's also, and if you're a one-person business, there's a lot of entry points that a customer with topics they talk about, and they expect you to have that information available. In a larger organization, they have many entry points. So they talk with sales, but they also talk with accounting based on, outstanding invoices, etc. If that information is not captured, we're actually not serving the customer correctly. We're also not strategizing on that customer correctly. So our customers are super connected in our organization. But that goes further than just the standard way of interactions directly with our business. Think about how we interact via LinkedIn social, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn is, our customers will also, as a salesperson, you do this as well. You peruse LinkedIn, you see who's working there, you see what they do, what the relationships are. So there's a lot more information that's being gathered about us as we gather a lot more information about our customers and our vendors. And our vendors is a good point because there's something called supplier relationship management. And funny enough, with the supplier relationship management, it's not a separate piece of software. It's actually the same CRM system that's used to capture the vendor interaction. So a good CRM has got a section for customers and it's got a section for vendors, for the supplier relationship management. And if you're actually buying of a certain particular supplier, you tend to understand their sales process and alignment to your buying process. It's actually the same thing, but then in reverse. So if you don't want to break down your silos in your organization, your customer is actually doing that for you. So it's very easy to raise the walls of the cubicles within an organization, but funny enough, your customer breaks right through that with a wrecking ball. Question coming in here. That's on supplier relationship management. So good question. So supplier relationship management is actually, it's not as mature a strategy as CRM, as customer relationships management, but for larger buyer organizations, so think of large organizations where they have a buyers group, they definitely have supplier relationship management, supplier performance management in place. And yes, they will do whatever they can to shift the negotiation to their advantage. So what it means is they, like you have in your sales, a sales process where you take away all the barriers to buy at your customer and close the sale. What a buyer's organization does is actually create, it actually increases the barrier for you to sell because they create a level playing field between you and your competition so they can get lower prices, better terms and conditions, if that makes sense. So as I said, it's not necessarily a separate piece of software. It's done within CRM, and supplier relationship management tends to be more focused on the procurement department and operations, if that's actually based on particular spare parts and etc. Hope that makes sense. A bit of a convoluted answer. It's not in the topic for today, but hopefully, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So let's actually put this in practice. So let's go for an example. Now, the scenario that I've taken here is you're selling cameras. So it's an organization that sells cameras and camera equipment, as well as does studio renovation, studio implementation, so for the more professional end. And one of your customers is Camera House. They are a top retailer of your company's photography products. You, the account manager, visit the customer to introduce a new camera lens offer that can significantly add value to their bottom line. Because in the end, why do we sell to retailers? Is basically to help them make more profit. So let's do some homework. What preparations should we do? So the first thing that you actually want to see is obviously what's their history in buying with us, but that's the standard stuff we do, right? So in a connected CRM, we bring together whatever is in social. So we look at the Twitter feed. Now I took an example here for Nikon Australia, but imagine we call it the Camera House having their own Twitter page or Facebook. All right, a question coming in. CRM, you are the supplier, vendor SRM, you are the customer, so the same system administration, different role. Yes, exactly. Very, very good. So within CRM, you are selling to, you are the vendor, you are the supplier, and with SRM, you are the customer. It's the same system. It's actually a little bit the same way of administrating the deals, except with supplier relationship management, you don't do sales funneling. You don't really manage the deal process. That's, you obviously procure and you compare. Whereas in selling, you sell directly. So hopefully that answers the question. But yeah, it's a good observation. Same system, same administration, but it's a different role within it, except for the sales management aspect, because it's the reverse way. Okay, so back to the scenario here. Sort of you check out their Facebook feeds and whatever, if they have Facebook, right? What are they planning? What are they doing? Now, if this is within your CRM, you actually capture the social aspects of it. You can have direct interactions, but you capture their posts. What is actually important to my vendor right now? What are they selling? How do I position that in their current strategy? It's a very simple investigation to do, but you'd be surprised. It's not often done, especially if the social feeds are not combined within the CRM, because then you have to go out and find all these different pages. So it's a one-time setup in your customer record, and then you want to capture those feeds. So modern CRMs, they actually are linked into the social platform. So check with your CRM where that setting is. Most modern CRMs have this. This example here is from Zoho CRM. That has it. I'm pretty sure that whatever CRM you use, they have some sort of a social listening aspect of this. So you're ready to go, right? You got your external sources, you checked on the website, the social media, etc. Are we ready to go? Well, this is what your accountant knows, or your AR/AP department. There is $24,000 and some change in outstanding receivables. Now, that didn't come from the customer card, right? If you don't have that, and you don't have necessarily access to the AR system. So would you call your account saying, hey, I'm going to visit this customer, did they pay their bills? And traditionally, nobody does, right? You don't really necessarily check what the things are. So what if this was actually in your CRM system? So I'm back into the CRM right now, and I just click on the receivables and go like, wow, outstanding receivables, $24,750. Maybe I should give them a call and ask them to pay before I actually go and visit them. That could be one way, like, hey, I'm not going to make you an offer for my new product because we're launching that, because you're not paying your bills, right? There's actually another step here. This is what your support department sees, right? So unpaid invoice, halt invoices, make the collection call before proceeding. This is what your support department sees. Like, hey, they've actually, several camera boxes were damaged. They cannot resell. So think about this, right? You're a camera salesman. You got a little shop in the local CBD. You sell high-end cameras. They're like $1,200 a piece. Still consumer cameras. And the retail boxes are damaged. So those are the boxes that you as a customer buy, and they're damaged, right? So the customer says, here, listen, I can't sell these cameras for the full price, because the boxes are damaged. The cameras are fine, but supply me with replacement boxes and I will replace them. For this time only, maybe he'll do it himself. Next time I'll send them back for full credit. So actually the customer here gives a complaint, and it seems that it's still open. Nothing has happened on this one. Now, as an account manager, would I go into my support area and say, hey, I'm going to visit this customer. I'm going to sell them this, upsell them this great new offer of a camera and lens package that we have. Are there any issues? You don't have the time for that. So back to the CRM. In your CRM card, you see here the same issue is open. So we can actually see directly from that card, the same card where we checked for the social interaction, social listening, and we're seeing that there's an outstanding invoice for the 24,000. We actually now see here there is an open issue. it hasn't been done. It's open, priority is high. And I see also there's a little one here with a note next to 7 camera boxes damaged, cannot resell. That means there's a note in there. If I click on that, I can actually read what the issue is. So now I know, number one, the customer has, it's in line with what they're doing online and how they're promoting stuff. They would really like to have this product on offer. Number two, there's an outstanding invoice. If that hasn't been paid, I'm not going to send any more. I'm just simply not going to get any more deliveries through. Number three, there's an outstanding issue that hasn't been resolved. It actually can be resolved very easily. So we put these three things together. What we can do is actually say, you know what? These boxes are damaged. Why don't I bring replacement boxes with me when I actually go visit the customer? You know what? I'll help them repack the things as well. A little bit of getting stuff done. And because the customer's been waiting for that, we haven't followed up. Let's take them out to dinner and talk that over. So it's a whole new, different experience than going to the customer and making an offer only to find out that you can't ship the product because he hasn't paid the invoice. And you notify the customer, like, you haven't paid the invoice, so I can't ship you anything. And then the customer goes, well, you're not solving my problems. That is obviously a recipe to really lose your customers really fast. Whereas if you have everything together, you can actually be more proactive and go to the customer and say, hey, listen, I've got your boxes. Let's fix your problem first. Then we go to dinner and I'll present to you. I'll show you the new product that we have and see how we can actually do business in the future. You win the customer confidence. You show that you're proactive, etc. Now, let's take this a little bit further, and we actually are taking that client for dinner, right? And the dinner was, let's say it's a steakhouse, and we spent $175 on this dinner. This is in the expenses tool. So you take a photograph of the receipt with your mobile phone, and that lands in the expenses tool. Now, what's really interesting is I can actually see this as a cost of sale in the deal for Camera House or Camera Pack 2. And want to buy, you propose them if you got, over dinner, discuss like, hey, this is how many packs we want to buy for that particular thing. It's worth $56,000. As a cost of sale, you can already put in there the 175 to actually, discuss that over dinner. And that's also part of your CRM. So the whole thing is connected. We got another question here. All right. So the question here is, can you do this also the other way around? So if you're, for instance, the accountant sees, if I get this correctly, the accountant sees that the bill isn't paid, can the accountant then access that there is a support trip, or the accountant or the AR AP clerk, right? So let's take that indeed in that aspect. With a connected CRM, the idea is that everybody that is relevant to the customer has access. And in a lot of CRMs today, actually what people think is like, well, only sales people need to have access to the CRM system. Why does an accountant need to have access to a CRM system? Why does my AR, accounts receivable clerk, need to have access to a CRM? Not many people realize this, but an invoice is actually a customer-facing document. And every iteration you have with your customer, every communication you have with your customer on an invoice is part of your customer relationship. So in a lot of CRM systems, if you don't give your full organization that deals with customers access, you still have these silos within your organization because they just don't have that access. Whereas your customer, as we've seen, they just break through that. They talk to anybody they need to talk to. So if, for instance, they get a reminder like you need to pay that invoice, then that's the wrecking ball through your cubicle, right? Because then the accountant says, well, the customer says, well, I've got this issue, and they didn't follow up. All right. Yes, indeed. I get a comment here. Never thought about that on the invoice. Absolutely. It is often forgotten that an invoice is a customer-facing document. Now, let me make this a little bit more visible, more tangible. All right. So I've talked about an invoice, why it's not paid because there's an outstanding issue. But think of it this way. You create a deal in CRM, an opportunity, and you put it as 1, but it's only 1 because of a certain discount. But then it goes into your inventory system, and that discount isn't applied because it's a separate system. That then goes into an invoice and delivery note, so the customer receives the goods. Then they receive the invoice, and they do 3-way matching, right? Have I received the goods? Do they match the packing slip? Yes. Does the invoice match the purchase order I sent? And that's a no, because the discount wasn't applied. Again, that's the problems with disconnected systems and invoices, delivery notes. All these things are customer-facing documents. Another question here. Very often, a CRM is not proliferated throughout the organization because of the cost. It's cost prohibitive. Yes, it is. If your CRM is costing you like $200 per user per month, that's usually a very good reason why not to give everybody access. The question is, does a CRM have to cost that much? And what's the value that you get in return? So typically, if you lower the cost of the CRM, but still look at it, does it give me the features that I need throughout my organization? Do I then get better access? Actually, the example I give here with Zoho, as I said, CRMs are CRMs. Most of them will do roughly the same thing. But the beauty about the Zoho solution is they got Zoho One, which is an all-employee access, and it gives you CRM, email hosting, support desk, expense management, accounting, you name everything you need to run your business. That's $50 per employee. Now then we start talking about a different value proposition where you actually don't have to cherry pick which employee gets access to what system, and therefore you create that team that has that single goal, which is customer satisfaction, customer success. Instead of everybody has a goal of customer success, but the left hand literally doesn't know what the right hand is doing because they're using different systems that don't talk together. So I hope that makes sense. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's not that organizations don't want to give access to CRM. It is usually cost prohibitive if you take a very expensive CRM. So I hope that answers that question. All right. Now let's add something to the scenario. So we've in this scenario, we've assessed the interest via social media. We've looked at the outstanding invoices. We found that the damage was a root cause for withholding the payment, and we've solved the issue and opened up a new deal and took the customer out for dinner. When it's all sold, it's absolutely worth the time. And by the way, that steak looks delicious. So if anything, that's already worth it for me. But let's add something to that scenario, because it's not just product-based that has advantage on this. So let's look at a scenario 2, the project delivery. So as I said, we do business with camera retailers and sell, both professional as well as consumer-grade camera products, photography products. But here is a customer called Truller, and they are a professional studio. So they need a new studio fit out. And what this is not just hardware. There's actually services. That is an installation of the studio. And typically we manage a project with project management tools. Who gets access to the project management tools? Well, let's see here. This is what it looks like. And this is a very simple project I just set up. Obviously no dates here and whatever, but this is what's handled in your project delivery management organization. So that's typically the project manager and some of the team members. So that has nothing to do with CRM. Which is fantastic, right? There's a project on the way, it's been sold. Great, the CRM job is done. Now, let's look a little bit further in the project, right? Here is an issue, an open issue. The client wants more features that are not in the scope of this project. So what happens here? The client wants to have some rework done on the features, and it will cost another $10,000 on this project. It will cost another $10,000 on this project. So in other words, there's a sales opportunity for $10,000 of additional work on a project. So it becomes a sales discussion. If sales is not involved, the sales will see this as an issue because it's just left dangling and the project manager doesn't really get everybody involved. And you know what it's like with customers. If they don't know what's going on, they get very, very nervous. So we see here there's an issue on the project. It's in the project management tool, but we don't know where that is, right? It stops there. No one gets involved. Now, what if in the same generic things as we saw with the support desk, etc. What if this was in the same CRM card? So I'm here in the account card for Truller, And I see there's an active project for the digital studio fit out. And I see that, one of the 14 tasks have been completed, but there are 2 issues here in total. One has been resolved and one is open. And if I click on this project, it will take me into that project and I can actually follow that as a salesperson. Why is that important? Now, I come from a organization that did a lot of projects for our customers, even though we're a product organization. And a lot of times salespeople go in there because if you sell more than one product, you go into, as an account manager, into the account talking about a lot of other things. If there's a project underway with an issue and the account manager hears of it, from the customer immediately goes like, wow, that's a risk on sale of my other opportunity. I need to close my numbers. That's a problem. And then you get the friction within the organization. Solve that issue, otherwise I'm not selling it, and all this stuff, because you come unprepared. By having access to the active projects within the organization that are happening right now at your customer, you can come prepared with what the issues are. Imagine that conversation that you would have like, hey, we're talking about another product here, but we know that here in your project, this is what you want, and it seems that you're, you need some additional value in the project, and we can give it to you for this cost, and maybe you can throw in a little discount in order to close the other deal. At least you are in control of the situation. So project management is part of your customer relationship management strategy, because you do your project at your customer site. There's a question here. Does Microsoft projects or any other project solution integrate with CRMs that you are aware of, or is this part of the CRM solution itself? Okay, so the question is, does the CRM integrate with a project management tool like Microsoft Projects, or there's some other project management tools like Monday, and Atlassian has got some tools for the more agile delivery, or is it built into the CRM system itself? This is not built into the CRM system. This is Zoho Projects, which is integrated natively into the CRM system. I haven't actually seen too many other CRMs with project management tools on this level in a CRM system. So with Zoho One, which is that all you can eat buffet for $50 per employee, you get all this, and it's all integrated out of the box. If you don't use projects, you just don't enable it. Same as if you don't like the shrimp, you pass the shrimp in the buffet. But when you do activate it, it's automatically integrated. I haven't seen, neither from partners nor from a vendor, a actual functional integration with, let's say, Microsoft Project Server, which is part of the Professional Office 365 family. They may be out there. I haven't seen that yet, and definitely not as a standard, like let's flick the switch and have it integrated. If it's there, obviously, stand correct, but it has to be integrated with a project management tool. Don't try to build a project management tool within the CRM, because for one reason, it is simply too complex to build it. There's so many dependencies, etc. Number two, project management tools also have, particularly the server component, have capacity planning in that. So you can see with capacity planning, I mean that if you have project resources, for instance, in the studio fit out, you got the hardware specialists, you got the installers, and etc. Those are people with specific skills, and you want to make sure that you don't double book them on multiple projects at the same time. A CRM is very poor at actually managing that, so you do need a specialized program management tool. And then finally, it does the invoicing and all that stuff. So don't try to build a project management tool in a CRM, but look for it that it's integrated. Now with Zoho, I know it is integrated. I'm pretty sure that if you look carefully at other CRMs, you'll find some that actually have that, if that's important to you. If they don't, you should really think, okay, what are the risks for me as an organization, and what do I put as a workaround so that my sales force is always up to date with what's happening in the project. So a question here. On the licensing aspect, if I integrate projects with CRM, would I then still need to license everybody for it? Yes. You do if you want to give access. So if your sales, if your account manager in this case is not licensed to use projects, then you wouldn't be able to see the integration either. Now Zoho has solved that with that all you can eat licensing per employee, $50 per employee, you get everything. So that's kind of a non-issue here. But yes, if you want to make things expose certain data, then typically it means that you need to license something in that other tool as well. So if you use Microsoft Project, you want to expose it in this level into CRM, you probably will need to, you have to check the licensing agreements with Microsoft or whomever is delivering your project tool on what you can actually expose without, additional licensing fees. Okay. All right, so we've seen the project, we've seen the expenses, we've seen the support desk. There are some other scenarios where having connected CRM makes a ton of difference. Now, the first one is actually very simple: email and phone calls. How often is it that someone sends you an email or calls you? You're on the phone with a client and says, well, I had this email trail with your colleague who's now on holidays, and you don't have access to the email. So a great CRM, and I think, I can't think of any CRM that doesn't do that at this moment, will actually have emails nicely linked into the CRM so you can go to the customer record and actually see the trail, right? So that's very important. The other thing is the telephones. If the phone rings, it is great if you get a contextual pop-up with, hey, this is this customer, because we all have number recognition, and you can immediately see what are the open deals of that client, or what are the open support calls, depending on what your department is. So you get some contextual information. So emails and phone records, and then obviously you want to log the phone records as well. So you actually have an activity that says, hey, at this date, this person talked to this representative within our organization, with some notes in it. That would be fantastic. So yes. And what you see here, by the way, is a contextual email from the CRM, not necessarily linked to the record, but it's called the sales inbox in Zoho. So the emails are under the records as well, as you've seen before with all the support calls and all that stuff. But what the sales inbox does, it says, okay, from left to right, that's where the importance of your emails are. So first is emails with contact persons that have an active deal at the moment, because this is where you make money. The second one is contacts and leads, because you want to get active deals. The third one, they're not in CRM, but maybe they should be. And finally, your colleagues. Colleagues are important, but they're never going to buy from you. So as a salesperson, those are your least important emails. Sorry, that's just the way it is, right? So colleagues are never going to buy from you. So they're on the right-hand side, the left-hand side. These are active deals. You want to close those. So that's what the sales inbox does. But if you look at the records, same as with the projects and the support calls, you see nicely all the emails under the contact and under the account. All right. There's a question here. If the phone is integrated to the system and it logs a record, will it also record the phone call? That's a great question. It's not everywhere allowed to record phone calls and store them in the records without making the customer aware. There is a technical possibility, and there are some plugins for that to have the call recorded. There's, as I said, there's two things actually. Number one is the legality of it. Are you allowed to store record phone calls and store them without customers' knowledge? So you have to announce that. And number two, you also have to look around how many calls do you get a day and how many calls do you want to save in your CRM, because there's data storage implications. And the second thing is, it takes a lot longer to listen to a recording and find a recording with particular spoken words in it than it is to actually type a note. So my recommendation is, if you want to store phone calls, be very careful, because the use of it actually is not outweighed by the costs of data storage, etc., as well as the difficulty of retrieving those records, because you need to find, based on contextual, what was actually said during the call. A note is much quicker. So I recommend a note. Okay. Another thing that you should actually track in your CRM, and most CRMs actually do not do this, which is the actual visit to your website. Now, I compare a website to a store. Let's say a department store, right? If you're walking in a department store, now in Australia, most department stores are doing actually pretty poorly because there's no customer service, but what they should be doing is noting, where are you walking? Can I help you with something, right? Your website is the same thing. What pages is my customer visiting? So you need some sort of a tracker that drops a little bit of a breadcrumb at your customer's computer and saying, hey, I've identified this is the customer that's visiting this web page. Where are they looking at? Can I help them with something? Now you can initiate a chat. Chatting via the web is actually becoming more and more important, particularly in the end user space, where people don't want to pick up the call. It's actually amazing, but a lot of the younger people go like, well, I'd rather chat instead of having a phone call. So offering the chat functionality there helps, and it helps if you also then see, where they are at. So if you here look at Chloe Reese from Apex Corp, she visited 4 days ago, and she's currently in the pricing page, which is very important because she's in the pricing page, and you also see there's an active deal of $38,000, and she's online right now. You can initiate a chat and ask if she needs help. You can also just leave it because maybe B2B typically not really accepted to do chats yet. It will come. But then it adds to the sales score. So you can pick up the phone after 5 minutes or 10 minutes and actually have a call like, hey, Chloe, how's it going? Just thought about you. Let's have a call. And is there anything I can be of assistance of? Guess what? Wow, amazing that you called me. I was just on your website, right? All these tools here with a connected CRM start building a customer profile. Now, if you look here at Silker Home, you can see on the record of Quinn Rivers that there's actually a chat history and pages visited, etc. So you actually have much more context on how important, how top of mind you are at your client, right? So this is super important, and not enough people do this, and not enough. Actually, a lot of my clients, when I show them this, they go all wide-eyed, like, "Wow, this is magic! I didn't know you could do that." You can track individually your client on your website and help them make the right decisions. You see what they're looking for, and you can obviously be more service to them. There's nothing spooky about it. You don't sell that data. Compare it to you walk into the department store, you look at the shoe salesman comes out and helps you pick the right shoes that fit with your suit. That's all it is, right? Okay. It's amazing, right, what they can do now with software. Now, and finally, contextual interactions. You want to see, what emails are sent, what meetings were had, which calls were had. So that's the normal logging within a CRM. So that's what most CRMs currently do, right? So there's a question to you, right? Who of you is using that website tracking? That's quite unique, isn't it? Actually, it's not unique. There's a few systems that do that, but most people do not implement this. So also, when you are visiting your client, your vendor via the web, you probably notice now that there's a little chatbot icon asking, hey, you can chat with us. That's typically the tool that's being used, and behind that, even if there's not a chat icon, so I use the same on my site, by the way. And even if it's not a chat icon, you can still track where people are going. You can track where do they come from, what do they do, and then you can offer them assistance if need be. Nothing spooky about it because it stays within that business. Again, if you're walking into a store, they're tracking what you're looking at as well and trying to be of assistance to you. So that's how I feel that from my perspective, and from your perspective, people visit your website, you want them to have as good an experience as possible. But it's pretty amazing that you can do that. And if you're not using that yet, check it out. Zoho Sales IQ is one of the applications that does that. There are some others in the market. The beauty with Sales IQ is it's directly integrated within CRM. All right, let's bring it all together. We're getting to the 45-minute mark, which is a good time to be. So CRM is more than just a customer relationship database. It's a customer relationship strategy. What is the relationship you want to have with your customer as an organization? And a connected CRM brings the whole business together. As I said, your customer brings a giant wrecking ball that just destroys all the silos in your business. And again, every interaction with your customer is customer facing, whether that is a proposal you make, an invoice you send, even the packing slip. Everything that goes to your customer is a customer facing document. Everyone that does things on behalf of your customer is part of your CRM strategy. So we've seen here that visibility of everything that is operational into sales is important. We've also discussed how visibility of everything relevant to your customer is actually relevant to the operations. And I gave you the example of the accountant that can see that there is actually an issue. But think about also the warehouse that's made aware, hey, there's an issue with the boxes and the packing. What type of overbox did you use, which is the big box on which all the retail boxes fit in, and how did you put together your instructions for your shipping organization? Right? Maybe you tried a new shipper. So everything comes together as a single customer success strategy, because that's why we do business with our customers. We want to see them successful. We want to see our customers more successful dealing with us than with our competitors. And then finally, the multi-channel customer engagement is an expectation. As said before, it's whether you give people a call on the mobile or on the desk phones, as I like to call people. A lot of the younger employees love to do chats, and they love to be engaged in social, in LinkedIn. Now I see some LinkedIn gurus here on the meeting as well. LinkedIn is an excellent tool for actually working with your vendors and do business. Therefore, it's an excellent tool for me to actually find more clients. Yes, love LinkedIn. Absolutely love LinkedIn. Great comment. So if there are any questions before we close, then you can raise them now. If you find this useful at the end of the webinar, please don't close the browser, especially if you have made notes, because they will be sent out to you as notes. But there's a little bit of a feedback there as well, and a suggestion for additional topics that you want to address in future webinars. So this is your chance to influence what we're going to talk about maybe next month or in a few weeks. The next webinar is successfully extract requirements in workshops, and that is proven to be actually a very difficult thing to do. Is if you're either implementing a CRM yourself in-house and you need to extract requirements from your various business stakeholders, or you're an implementation partner and need to extract requirements from your customer. The premise is the same: is how do you get successfully the requirements for any system, whether CRM or anything else, and then document those without actually getting into, well, our requirements are whatever we do now, but then better, right? So that's not going to be successful. So check out next webinars next week, 14th of January at 8 p.m. If you are not yet a Zoho client, and you would like to try Zoho, there's a free trial available for 30 days, which is Zoho One, which is the $50 Australian per employee per month. Now, if you're in Europe, I think it is 30 pounds, 30 or 35 British pounds, and I think it's 35 euros, and 35 US dollars as well, per month per employee. And you can get all you can eat buffet. Now, there's also a cherry picking option available. It's a little bit different priced. But there's a free 30-day trial, and this CRM, all the screenshots that came from there are actually from that suite. So try it out, www.aurelian-group.com. And if you check under publications, you'll find also a link to all the recorded webinars. All right, so let's see if we have a final question coming in. I get one in Dutch. Ontzettend goed verhaal, Matt. Blijf toch even met Salesforce en Salesforce.com werken. Okay, in English, great story, Matt. Really cool. I will personally keep working with Salesforce and Force.com. That's fantastic. Work with any CRM, right? I took the example of Zoho because obviously I'm a Zoho partner and would love you to try it out. I'm really passionate about it. But most CRMs, modern CRMs that are here, will supply similar things. But now you know what to look for when you select the CRM, and also which areas of the business should be connected. And I'll give you a little hint: it's every area, right? So fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. Again, feel free to fill out the evaluation and suggest a new topic for next week. And after this webinar, the notes will be sent to you if you made any. And you'll receive a link with the recording. Thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you next week.